Thanks everyone for joining me today. Wanted to get us all together so we can discuss the upcoming classes we have. So Kate and Chris, this is Kim Middleton. I've known Kim for, I think, like 3 years now. She was a part of the original marketing team that I joined. And then when she left the company, I ended up switching my marketing because she did such a good job in terms of training my team. So I switched my marketing teams because I heard she went somewhere good. So I just kind of trusted where she ended up. My team has really said amazing things about her, where we get on the phone, we do just breakdowns and conversations and how to talk with patients. And a lot of people think they can talk to people, but most staff members, and I'd say even myself or a lot of other doctors, we don't really know how to talk to people. It's a hard thing to admit. And it's really fun seeing growth in terms of staff getting more comfortable and having like a strategy of how do you talk to people, right? There's a lot of psychology behind it. I find it really fun. I'm kind of a big nerd. I really like to learn more about people, what makes them tick and function. And at the end of the day, what our goal is really just to take care of patients, right? And like, how do you help people move forward with treatment, whether that be they don't want to say yes right now, or their wife has to make all the financial decisions, or they have the money and maybe they find the investment in their big SUV truck is more important at the time, right? Or who knows, whatever issues that they may have. And really helping understand the psychology portion gets in their head, right? And helps them move forward where they can laugh and chew, right? And smile again. Right. Or when they come into the building again and now they have their hair done, right? Or now they actually look at you in the eyes and they smile. So pretty cool thing. So this is why I wanted to have this phone call and explore how we can take this to other doctors and see if we can have an impact.
I love it. So thanks for bringing us in, myself and Chemenn, to be a part of this at CSI. I'm very excited to do the 2-day boot camp that we talked about. As you said, Dr. Briskie, we've known each other for 3 years now. I'm going to say time flies when you're having fun. I'm going to pretend that Dr. Briskie likes me the whole time. I'm kidding. But yeah. So
I was like, who's this person telling me I'm not good at talking with people? I was joking.
But yeah, so I wanted to do something like this because I met you and we talked about it. And then I think a year passed after we talked about maybe doing some training together and how do we reach out and help more people. The one thing about Dr. Briskie too is he's not only just wanting to help his practice, he's wanting to help hundreds, thousands of doctors to change more lives. And I love that about Dr. Briskie. I love how authentic you are. And that's one thing that made me gravitate towards you. And we stayed friends even after you left the first marketing company. And then you came over here and through whatever changes, we've always stayed friends because I appreciate that he's a giver and wants to help so many people. And then recently we just spoke about, now we're doing it, a part of CSI where you're training the doctors. You've done so many trainings for doctors that you said, Kim, I want to go further into this. And I would love to train treatment coordinators or setters on how to, answer the phone, or treatment coordinators on how to close cases, which at CSI, we're really going to focus in on our 2-day boot camp, myself and Chemenn, on training treatment coordinators, training your sales team on how to close these cases. So that's really exciting that we're going to be able to do that.
Yeah, I feel like one of the biggest problems I'd say with attending CE is, let's say you learn the subject, right? But if you're not primed to just kind of go back and implement the surgery, or you know how to close the cases, I don't know. At that point, I try to tell doctors to not take the class yet, for the surgery. It just needs to be a good ROI, like an investment, right? I feel like we spend a lot of time telling docs don't do it yet. It's just you're not ready, right? So I think this topic does apply to a lot of good avenues because I really want this to reach not just the all on X or full arch, right? This is also day-to-day cases or cosmetic cases, right? Your upper and lower veneer cases, upper and lower tens. So I think it's really interesting way to appeal to the vast majority of the treatment that we're doing, right? Or the big cases.
Yeah, and small cases too. It doesn't matter if it's a midline or if they want them to start same day, right? I have general dentists that say, Kim, how do I get my same day starts up sooner? Even as small as a filling. or a crown? How do I get my team to help someone, to a patient? How do they create urgency? How do they make the patient feel safe? How do they build trust in a short amount of time to help them move forward that day? What we're going to train on at this boot camp is true communication skills, right? I always talk about there's process and content. Process is how we do something that creates how it lands, and our content is what we say. Communication tools, the words that we use, like social proof and open-ended questions and closed-ended and double-clicking, confirming understanding, not just saying it back, but confirming it into the future of how it's going to change their life is so important. So we're going to teach the how, why, and when behind all that. Because like you said, Dr. Briskie, it's one thing to, just say, hey, do a surgery, but you have to understand why you're doing each step of the surgery, how you do each step, when, right? All these things are important. And that's what we want to talk about, of when do we use these communication tools and how, and what do we do to help that patient move forward, which I think is so powerful. So it's going to be different than you go to a meeting and we give a little rah-rah, right? You're going to be excited. You're going to know how to do this. And this is what you need to do. And then you go back and you're like, I want to do it all. And you're like, I don't know how. This is really going to get in there and we're going to role play through it so that we make sure that everyone truly understands it. And we're going to learn from everybody else in the room, which I love, because you're going to learn how to say the same thing a million different ways. The more ways you can say the same thing, the more people you can connect to. So that's what I love about it.
I'd say I used to do like an implant coordinator style, right? Where you have an implant coordinator and then all the phones get passed to them. But when I opened my startup 2 years ago, I tried to have everyone speaking the same language, which I thought was important. Then eventually you reach like to be a certain size where I think you do have to have that implant coordinator. But man, I feel like I spent so much time just like listening through mango voices and like how horrible the phones call sounded. Because I like before I started the startup, I pre-scheduled during my opening week. I pre-scheduled 7 implant consults, like myself,
Nice.
and then I closed 4 my first week, which is really excited about, right? But I don't think everyone in the building can like talk to patients, right? And just then I always wonder, like, man, how many cases are we losing, right, out on by not having everyone understand how to say the same language and just talk to people, right?
Well, I think that's such a key point, Dr. Briskie, and Kim and I are big fans of this approach, because your doctors, your dentists who are coming for additional training, they want to be so great at what they're delivering for a patient. And while they've invested the time and the energy in their craft and their clinical expertise, sometimes they have to polish up and raise their game on their communication and connection, because as we know, dentistry has changed a lot in the way you approach your patients and you approach your dental implant consultations is very different than it used to be. And so understanding that you have to connect, I always say mental before dental, right? Connect to the patient's mind before you meet their mouth, is something that a doctor told me long ago. He learned in dental school, and it stayed with me, because really no one wants to be treated like their dental condition. And so in order for you to connect with the patient and them to build trust in what you're doing and you as a human, because it takes a lot of trust, right, to trust your dentist, then you have to connect with them. And this helps doctors who may be not as specialized or great at that concept really up their game, and their teams, because it does take the culture of the whole team and the skill of the whole team to get the win for the team.
True. Yeah. And like patients just want to know, like when someone answers the phone call, is it like a real human at the end of the phone call, right? Like, is it a human being? Are they genuine? Is the doctor qualified? And right? And are they around the same price as everyone else?
I think when somebody calls in, they want to feel heard and understood. There's actually a trust formula, and that's why we train on this. The trust formula is, do I feel heard and understood? So does that person on the other line feel like a friend? And do I feel like they're good at what they do? Do they understand what I need? Those two things builds a trust formula of why somebody moves forward, why they show up, right? It's not just about booking the appointment. It's about getting the show. Anyone can book, but can they get them to show? That's important. Anybody can get consults. Can they help them move forward? And like Chemenn said, I'm going to piggyback on that. You want to go to their emotions, right? Even good change can be hard. We probably all know somebody, in our life, one of our friends who's been married or dating someone for 3 years, and all they do is complain about their significant other and they want to leave. We know someone in our life that's been like that.
Yeah.
And, we talk to them a year later, they're still with the person, still complaining. Because good change can be hard. Maybe they don't leave because they have kids. Maybe they don't leave because one person doesn't work and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't afford to leave. Maybe they're afraid. Maybe they don't want to be the bad person. If I'm going to be the one leaving, how are my friends going to look at me? Good change can be hard. Even though we know they'd be happier, it's still hard. So I think that's important, knowing with your patients, you have to sell, but it's not about selling. It's about connection. Connection makes you sell. Understanding the vision and what a patient wants, that brings the collections and the close rate. If people just worry about close rate, they don't get anywhere. If you worry about how do I connect with this person to help them through their journey, to help them through change, because again, good change can be hard. So we don't have to sell, we have to understand, and we have to help resolve any concerns they have. And that's why we focus in so much on this. It's about communication tools to help them through their journey to move forward. And when I say good change can be hard for the dental world, it can be hard because the patient's afraid of the dentist. It can be hard because they haven't told their significant other or their family members what they're struggling with. It could be money. It could be time. There's different things. But the more we understand their vision and the more we understand their concerns, the easier it is to help them through their journey to get to the close rate and the collection ratios, right? So that's why it's so important.
Yeah, very well said. Yeah, then they'll tell 10 friends to come in after that.
Yeah.
The other hard part is the financing side is very difficult. I feel like every couple of weeks you're like hit with an email and just like, hey, use this financing company, use this one, right? And like, man, I can make a list of probably at least 12 to 14 companies now that offer financing.
Absolutely.
But which ones do you use? And it's like the strategy behind it, right? I'm trying to get style about this. Like, what should be the credit score for each one and the amount that you're trying to finance, and make it like very tactile, because it can be, you can't leave too much in the open on this side. So I think the financial, because even if you know how to talk to patients now, like how do you get them financed, right? Like, what companies do you actually go with is a whole nother topic.
Right.
That's so important. And I love that you said strategy, because that's something that Kim and I have been doing for so long, right? You have to understand that your consultation process, your conversion process is married to your patient financing and those financial conversations overall. So giving the patient options that are palatable, that make it easy for them to move forward. Again, it's allowing trust with premier healthcare lenders, understanding the programs. And I've always trained that strategy and finesse are so critical to that process, because you don't want to lose the patient's trust at this point of the consultation, speaking about finances, financing, and have them think that I'm not sure they know what they're speaking of, or I'm not sure about that. That seems I'm not comfortable with it.
Yeah,
so
like you try to sell someone, they turn off, right?
Right.
Yeah. I always like the patient, like, hey, like, what would you like options for, right? Like, or
absolutely, and understanding
like what options do you want here?
Right, and so many patients don't understand that. Just like when they go to buy a car, not a lot of people stroke a check for the automobile, right? They have financing that will help them get to that goal and get in the car that they like. We have financing that can help you get into this treatment, and understanding that and explaining it in a way that they're comfortable with and that continues building trust is very important.
Yeah, I'm going to go, I love that Chemenn has a great thought there, and you'll hear me piggyback on her a lot, because her and I speak the same language all the time, right? We always say we know exactly what the other is going to say. But I want to go further into what you were saying, Dr. Briskie, because I think it's important, not only with financing, but in a perfect world, right? They get approved. You have all these places that you can finance, but the world's not perfect, as we all know, unfortunately. Okay. And many times they can't get financed, or they only get half the amount of money. So we need to talk about not only financing, but how do we talk about 401ks, home equities, HSAs, credit cards, stock portfolios, because you can borrow money off of that, just like you can do a home equity. People don't know about all that. How do we help someone get their credit up, right? If someone says, I can't get a cosigner, let me show you a way to get your credit up, and we'll talk again. There's many different ways that we can do this, but what I hear from treatment coordinators all the time is, I don't feel comfortable. Maybe I go in at the end and I don't even see the patient first, or I don't know how to talk about this, or this is so hard. If we do the connection at the beginning, right? They first have to see the patient, because some doctors don't even bring them in till the end. Then they're like the Grim Reaper, right? If we see them at the beginning, though, and we become their advocate, we understand their vision, we're there to help them at the end, that financial conversation then becomes very easy. It's non-threatening. They want you to help them. They trust you. Now we can not only do the financing, but we can go so much deeper. And many times we have to do it. We have to talk 401k, home equity, HSA, and all that stuff. So it's every step of the process gets us to where we need to be at the end. So many times people are like, the financial is the hardest, or, it's the most important. Actually, the beginning is the most important. Are you setting them up to have that connection? Are you understanding what they need? Because like you said, Dr. Briskie, you can't talk money and try to sell. You have to understand, and then you're helping them. There's a big difference between that. And, Chemenn's an expert on financing. She knows all the ins and outs. So we're going to talk a lot about that too, because some of the main objections is money, spouse, and shopping around. And we're going to go over all that too at the boot camp to help people have authentic yet easy conversations to go through that.
Yeah, because I'll tell a lot of patients to not make them feel bad. So let's say they go through a financing and then they get a no, right? Well, they think the conversation's over, right? And they're like, well, that's the only option that was presented for treatment was a full arch, and I wasn't accepted, therefore I'm done. But so I try to tell patients, I joke with them, I tell them, hey, the world record in our office is there's a financials that lasted 6 different times. So I tell them, like, to make them feel normal. Like, hey, this is something that takes up to 6 times. Like, we got to figure it out, and there's more than one way to do it. And today we actually closed a patient who did $4,500 on Cherry, and then did 401k for 10k, and then did comp 5 for the rest.
Nicely done.
Right? Like, but we puzzle pieces together, and
the strategy and the persistence pays off.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
like,
You're right.
Creative with it, and we were able to close the case because we worked with the patient to get her taken care of, right?
Yeah.
And we love to hear that, because we know personally, we've been in the room and we know how much work it takes. You have to be willing to do that work and go through all the steps and make sure that the patient doesn't feel like the door of hope has been slammed in their face if they do happen to get a decline, or if they don't get the full amount that they're looking for. And explain there are so many ways to approach this, and let's get you into it and proceed, and it's life-changing.
Yeah, it could be embarrassing, right? You get clicked on a big no, and someone across from you sees that they have a 580 credit score. It's embarrassing. So it's like kind of make someone feel comfortable throughout all that still, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
It takes run away, and if someone runs away, the chances of them coming back in the next 5 years is probably 0 at that point, right?
And by the way, Dr. Briskie, what you did when you were telling the patient, hey, our world record is this, is you're using social proof to normalize the situation. It's okay. There's no judgment. It's no big deal. That's a communication tool that we're going to talk about at the boot camp. How and when and why do we use that is so important, whether it's at the beginning of a consultation or at the end when you're going through that financial conversation. But that's about lowering anxiety and building trust while you're having this conversation. That's exactly what you did.
Yep.
Nice job.
Thank you. Thank you.
You did. And so along with all of the communication tools and sales tools and things like that, we're also going to cover some best practices from sales and operations, because there are processes that the teams can put in place that help them elevate their goals and their revenue generation. And we want that for them. We know that everybody's interested in that revenue growth and practice growth.
Chemenn says that lightly, but that's such a heavy thing that she just said, right? Because many times we can go into practice, Chemenn and I, and just the way they're setting up the consultation, we can make a few minor tweaks that gets them 1% better. Think about that. One more case of $50,000 a month. If it's an all on X, $600,000 more a year. If it's Invisalign, I don't know how much people charge for each thing, but think about just one more case. Even something simple, $10,000. That's $120,000 a year. I'd like to have an extra $120,000. So it's simple things. They don't even have to change what they're saying. Just the process alone creates how it lands better. Mm-hmm. Just by doing that, you're not changing a word that you say. Just by changing a small process like Chemenn's talking about, you make $120,000 more.
Yeah.
You change more lives. I mean, to me, that's a win-win on both sides. And that's what it's about. It's helping people. And of course, keeping your practice moving in the right area. Like you said, it's about ROI and what you can do, right?
Mhm.